One of the things you might want to do is interrogate the data. There's a few different ways to do that. One of the things you could do is if you go into data, you can create a filter. You'll also see there's the filter symbol here. When you create a filter, it means you can show the data by a specific thing. So I just want to show, I'm going to clear all this and just show pens. And it'll just show who has got pens. Just as a word of warning, if you are on a shared document, this will mean that everybody in the shared document will have this same view. So be careful how you use this. If you come to a document and you're like, there seems to be missing data here, just have a look on the top. Symbols like this means you can filter. Symbols like this means you have filtered. So you can click on that, and I might want to go select all, okay, and then I've got all the data. So it doesn't go anywhere, but it just helps you see it. The other thing that I should imagine you're quite familiar with is if you take a selection of data and you go back to data, you can sort it A by a range. You can decide how you want to sort it, A by column A, column B. You can do multiple sorts, so you can sort by, for example, name and then by who has sold the most. And it's entirely up to you how you use that, but that's just worth a look. The final thing you can do is something called a pivot table. Now what a pivot table does is it allows you to take all the data and then just manipulate it to look at the things you are most interested in. From that pivot table you can then produce graphs of that data, or you can use it to really highlight some specific points you want to make. I'll show you how a pivot table works, but in all honesty, the only way you're going to be able to use a pivot table is if you experiment with your own data. It's very hard if you don't have your own data in front of you to actually look how this is going to work for you. But I can show you the basics of it. If you highlight the area you're interested in, so I'm interested again in this table here, and I go to the word data and I go to pivot table. This is my range and I'm happy with that range. I could change it there if I wanted to by using this symbol or simply typing it in. And I want a new sheet. Honestly, I always do pivot tables onto new sheets so that if they're wrong or if something goes wrong, I always have the original data in its original format. That's up to you, but for me, this is always a fail-safe method. Create. Now, a pivot table allows you to decide what you want to look at. So, and if this doesn't come up, which it doesn't always, if you click here where the values would go, it will go up. You've got rows, columns, values, and filters. So I'm going to show you with rows. So in rows, I'm going to look at the region. So now it shows my regions, but there's no data. I haven't said what I'm organizing this by. I can also sort it in ascending, descending order. I'm going to do it by values, and I'm going to do it by units sold. So that's units here. And it's sum, but it could have been average, it could have been a count, it could be max, minimum. But I'm doing sum. But this doesn't give me all the data I want. I can now see how many units have been sold, central, east and west, and the grand total of units sold. But actually, maybe I want to look at what the reps are getting up to. So I don't want this to be the sum of everything, just the sum of my reps. So in my column, I could add here my reps. And now you can see that for each of my reps, it shows me what region they're in, and I still get my regional totals, but it also says how much each rep is selling as well, so I can have an idea over all of the reps. So if you're not happy with something, you just can click here and remove it. But again, for me, it's about playing with what you have here. There is a lot of flexibility on how you want to deal with this, but you really have to know what it is you want to find out. And my top tip for pivot tables, you must know what you are looking for. And then it's just a matter of going, right, well, what rows do I want? Do I want my reps in a row? So instead of doing it by regions here, I might do that by rep. So I would see each rep and I've still got sum of units. I might not be interested in sum of units. I might be actually interested in the total unit costs. Okay, so that's how much money they're getting in. I might actually want to see what things they are actually selling. Okay. So you can really play around with how you set that up. Once you have this data, you can highlight it like any other spreadsheet data, and you can insert a chart of your choice. So whatever graphs that you think would be feasible for this, you can go. And in here, remember, you can manipulate the type of graph you want. I can customize it. I can look at what axes I want on it, what series. So basically all my manipulation, once you click on a graph, you should have your chart editor here, which will allow you to edit what your graph looks like. So that's a basic introduction two pivot tables.